Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now, if you want one piece of advice from me, if you want to be the best photographer that you can be, well, it's simple, quite literally. Simplify everything. Everything you do, every part of your photography needs to be as simple as it can be. As anything distracts or complicates the process will just hinder your progress and hold you back. Photography is a simple art form that has just in many ways got more complicated over the years, but it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't need to be complicated. So here's my simple guide to photography. But before we start, I want to make something else very simple for you too. You see all of this? You see me and all that I do? Well, if you like it, there's more of it. Much more. Of course, I'm talking about my E6 subscription. If you like this video content, I have more of that. If you like the inspiration I offer, I can give you more of that. The technique ideas, yep, more of that. The photography chat, the gear talks, and all the other things you know me for, yep, you've guessed it, more of that too. It's simple. It's simply called E6 and it's the place to find the best photography content, even if I do say so myself. Simply head to this website and subscribe to find more of me. Quite simple really. And now back to my simple guide to photography. So let's start with your camera. Now, I don't care which camera you use. It can be a Canon, it can be a Nikon or a Fuji or an OM system one. Okay, or a Sony, if you must. It doesn't really matter, and it shouldn't matter to you. Pick one, choose one, any one you like, and just learn to use it. They're all pretty much the same really. They all take good pictures. There's not one out there that takes bad pictures. Well, my Holga does, but that's another story. They all feel and operate slightly differently to each other, but set them all to manual and they're all basically the same. A simple box with a hole, with a lens attached. It's as simple as that. Now, if you want to continue with this simplicity, I suggest buying a prime lens to go with your camera. New cameras always used to come with a prime lens rather than a kit zoom lens, and it's a shame they don't now. And the 50mm lens was, and still is, an ideal first lens for everyday shooting. Yes, zooms are more versatile, but again, they also complicate things. They offer a lot of choices and maybe too many choices. Wide angle, standard, telephoto, and all the other focal lengths in between. Far too complicated. I bet the reason most photographers who feel they are struggling with their photography are failing simply down to the lens they are using. They reckon they have the best multi-purpose zoom lens for their photography, feel they need it, but probably don't realise how much it may in fact be holding them back, complicating things. By all means, use a zoom when you are experienced enough, when you have learnt about focal lengths and the various fields of view they offer, etc. But until then, try a prime. And then don't even bother with a zoom later on. I don't. I only really use primes all the time now. Life's too complicated as it is. A simple camera and a simple lens is all you need to become a competent photographer. Therefore, if your ideal set of lenses is the holy trinity of zooms, the ultra-wide, the standard zoom and the telephoto zoom, well, I don't even know how you get out of bed in the morning, let alone compose any images. So many choices, so many factors going on. This is not simplifying your photography. So let's talk about settings now. For simplicity, I use the camera on aperture priority with the lens set to f8. Use that as your default. That will get most of your scenes nice and sharp and in focus. That will get you great results. A 50mm lens, f8 aperture, and then just set the ISO to 400. This will allow the camera to give you decent shutter speeds, and that's all you need. With that, you can basically take all the same pictures I ever had. All cameras will take great images at these settings, whether it's a Canon, a Pentax, a brand new model from this year, or an older camera from 2010. You wouldn't be able to tell which one took the picture. You don't really need anything else. You can buy more, much more, but nothing really betters this basic setup. With this combination, you could easily take a picture that could win a photo competition. Simple. Now, if you do want to experiment though, get a bit more creative, but still keep it simple, then shoot with the lens wide open at f2.8. And here you can learn more about depth of field, or shallow depth of field as it's known. Focus on your subject, yeah, your camera will do this for you, and now you can throw the background out of focus. Simple. Now you're a creative photographer. And you can experiment even more if you double up the ISO to 1600. That's 2 stops from your basic 400, still using this f2.8 aperture. And now you can start shooting in low light too. The camera may decide to drop the shutter speed if it gets really dark, but if you hold the camera nice and steady, then you'll get nice sharp pictures too. Simple. Next, the subject you decide to shoot needs composing. You need to place and arrange your subject somewhere in the frame for the scene that you see through the viewfinder. So this is where it gets all difficult, right? No, not if you simplify it. And the best way to do that is just use the rule of thirds. I'm sure you've heard of this technique, but if you haven't, you just divide your view into thirds using a grid of 4 lines. If you're not sure how to do this, don't worry, your camera probably has this covered too, as an option. In the menu, there will be an option to turn on a grid pattern to display in the viewfinder and on the camera's rear LCD screen. So switch that on. Now the camera is helping you compose. A simple composition tool that works almost every time. Many photographers scoff at this rule of thirds technique, but I bet half their pictures are actually composed this same way. I know many of mine are. It's probably the most basic composition rule, and that's simply because it works. It's simple and it works. Now you're a master of composing too. What will you shoot? Where will you shoot? What should you take pictures of with your simple camera, simple lens, simple settings and simple composition idea? Well, anything you want, but you don't have to travel far to get great pictures. You don't have to get on the plane and go to some exotic hotspot simply because some YouTuber has been there. Forget Iceland or wherever and just look more local instead. The simpler the better, the more local the better. Go to your favourite place and just shoot there. Find a local landscape and perfect your technique there instead. You probably know it quite well already, but now you need to look at it from the point of view of a photographer. And do you know how to compose a simple view of your local landscape? Yes, easy, just use the rule of thirds as I say. But now also think of your view like a book, like a story. The story has a beginning, a middle and an end. And so like any good story, so should your pictures. You're taking your viewer on a simple journey through the picture. Foreground, midground, background. Use this simple composing idea with the rule of thirds and all your pictures will be winners. You're creating a nice composition, a simple view, but now you're also creating depth. That's all photography is, creating depth and making a 3D scene look 3D on a final 2D medium. It's an illusion of depth, simple as that. Now you may be thinking, how do you get a correct exposure for this scene with those settings that I mentioned? Well, of course, that's simple too. Just use matrix metering, the camera's default. This is the camera's star feature. This is what you paid for. It can work out the correct exposure of the scene almost 90% of the time. Simple as that. And if it doesn't quite look right sometimes, if the sky looks a bit washed out, say, That's because the scene is a bit too contrasty, and now the camera needs a little bit of help from you. Oh no, this is where it all goes wrong, isn't it? It's where it starts getting all complicated. Nope, not at all. So now all I'm suggesting is for you to just buy one accessory, not an expensive one, just a necessary one. A filter, an ND filter, a graduated ND filter, and a two-stop one, as you're asking. A 0.6 hard grad, if you want the technical term. That's what you need to help the camera out here for your landscape scenes. The sky may be too bright and the camera can't correctly expose for both the land and the sky on its own. Poor thing. So slap this filter over the lens and it will help the camera out. Simple as that. So photography doesn't have to be anything more complicated than that. You can buy more gear, you can buy more lenses, you can learn a bit more about the different techniques, but that's only if you want to. But all of that is just complicating things really, so you don't really need to do any of that, not until you're ready. Now, it's inevitable that if you like shooting landscapes, or urban ones like I do, then you may want to get more in the picture sometimes, more of the view. So, when funds allow, maybe add a wider lens, say a 28mm. That will be ideal. Don't worry, you don't need an expensive one of these, as again, you'll be using it at f8, and all lenses perform great at f8, no matter what the cost. But add this and you'll have two great lenses to choose from. Basically, you're an expert now. Finally, if you fancy treating yourself and adding one more thing to your kit, something that will again help simplify your photography, so a good investment, well, this is a controversial one, this. See, I don't use one of these myself, but I would suggest a beginner does use one, just to complete their simple setup. And that's a tripod. Again, it doesn't have to be an expensive one or a heavy one, but it is a very useful accessory to have. For those landscape views, to help you simplify the composition, then a tripod is very much your three-legged friend. Its job is twofold. One, support your camera, and two, to slow you down. Photography shouldn't be rushed. This is another reason many photographers fail. They're just too much in a rush. So take your time and enjoy it. A tripod will assist with this and help you simplify the whole process of taking a great picture. And that's it. That's all you need to know. Now, if you do need more advice though, then of course, I have an online photography course for beginners, all about simplifying the approach to photography as a beginner. I wouldn't be a very good teacher if I didn't now, would I? So, simplify your photography. Use simple gear and simple techniques and just enjoy shooting what you love. It doesn't get much more simple than that. Okay, my job is done. Simple. Off you go. Go and take a few pictures.